All right, so we're live here as Oklahoma State has the ball here. We're late in the second quarter, about 2:24 to go, and they're going to have it first and 10 here. As they've really been, I mean, it hasn't really been as competitive um, as like it's been more competitive than the scoreboard shows. As Oklahoma State is up by 11, but Texas A&M has definitely left some points on the board, and you could argue that Oklahoma State has as well, but. Um, Definitely so for A&M. I mean, they kicked one field goal. It was like a 24-yard field goal. Um, it was, they were right there on the doorstep, 4th and I believe 4 from like that 8-yard line, 6-yard line, something like that. But Oklahoma State moving fast. I'm trying to update this graphic. Finally, an incomplete pass. I'll be able to do that as they're on the 33-yard line of A&M.
They really have been moving fast.
They got it 3rd and 2 now. Yeah, they're making quick work here. What do you think about Mike Gundy's son getting in and getting the rushing touchdown at quarterback for Oklahoma State's second score? And they also said he's in the portal, but eligible to play. So his own son transferring out.
Is that like supposed to mean Gundy is retiring or something?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What a catch there! Oh, the ball came out incomplete. Owens couldn't hold on through the ground. Would have been a heck of a catch in the double coverage.
USC
Yeah.
definitely putting up a fight that we didn't expect against Louisville, but um,
Oh, not
I
at
don't
all. But
know. Say that again.
I said, yeah, not at all. Didn't expect that at all
Yeah.
from USC. They're up what 35-21.
Let's see here. Yes, I think so. I'm
No,
pulling
that's
up
what
the
it was the
game.
last I saw. I didn't think it had changed any, but
Yeah, it's
4th and 2
35.
now. 4th and 2 now. Oklahoma State going for it, and they got it, and they're in the red
That's a
zone.
It's a big get. Otherwise, you would have been in some big trouble. Well, not big trouble if you were Oklahoma State, but you can't stall out on that drive.
Oh no, definitely not. You want to get some points here. Um, who got the ball first? I missed the first part of the game.
I did not see. I can check it out. It looks
I'm
like
pretty sure
Oklahoma
A&M
State.
did.
I think Oklahoma
Oklahoma
State
State.
did. Yeah, yeah, because they got a field goal on their first drive. I remember they got a field goal on their first drive. So unless if Texas A&M started out with like an interception right away or something that I didn't catch, I'm pretty sure Oklahoma State had the first drive.
It must have been that I saw Oklahoma State up 3-0. Um, I thought I saw A&M was up 3-0 to begin with.
Yeah, they were tied 3-3 shortly after that. So
Yeah, they were tied 3-3 when I started watching. But I looked at the score on the way back, and I thought that I saw A&M was favored. As Owens drops that one, he's made a few. That one would have had him first and goal at about the 6-yard line, but drops that one, and now they got it 3rd and 11 now from the 20-yard line.
yeah, Louisville has a third down here, which they're going to get a first down and plenty more as they get into USC territory. Um, kind of an interesting dynamic going on in this Holiday Bowl.
I feel
As
like this is a really bad look for Louisville,
yeah,
considering what they have and all the stuff that USC's without. Is what a catch there from the big tight end down to the 1-yard line, set up a first and goal with 47 seconds left here for Oklahoma State, and they can really put this game out of reach if they're able to convert a touchdown here.
yeah.
It's 40 seconds and
So
counting as the clock goes down, and they're going to hand it off, and Gordon's in. Touchdown, Aggies. Or excuse me,
that
touchdown, Cowboys.
yeah, but that's a big it's a big get there for Oklahoma State in order to get that touchdown before halftime.
Oh, yeah, for
Really
sure.
really
I
stretch
mean,
this
they're looking
game
at
out.
being up. they're looking at being 18 points here with this PAT pending going into the half.
Yeah. Well,
Which is huge.
if USC beats Louisville, even if Louisville doesn't have Jawar Johnson and everything like or Jawar Jordan and everything like that, puts it really puts a damper on that ACC conference because you're really in a bad position that a fifth or sixth team in your in the Pac-12 conference at the current moment. And same in the Big Ten. I think they'd be like fifth or sixth, is beating your number two team. So, and beating them soundly. So,
I agree that's how it should be looked on, but bowl games don't matter to people who apparently, according to the money, whose opinions matter. So, although it should be concerning and looked at that way, no, I mean nobody that actually is opinion that matters is going to bring that up, just because I mean these bowl games mean nothing to them.
yeah, yeah. And and it's obviously, but I don't know. Like you're looking at a team. It more concerns me for the fact that Louisville right now is almost three quarters into the ball game, and Jack Plummer's 11 for 15 of 83 yards against a Southern Cal defense.
I just think the biggest thing with this though, um, is that you gotta wonder the motivation for these teams, um, for especially for a team like Louisville who isn't playing a bunch of guys who are just happy to be playing.
Yeah, but I
And
don't feel like
and
there's
also
more
with
motivation for one side than another. I would feel like there's more motivation for Louisville than there is for USC.
and I mean not only that, but you look at with Jordan being out. I mean, let's not sit here and pretend like Louisville had an offense outside of that guy either, because he was their entire offense.
Yeah, but so is Caleb Williams to USC.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm just saying that um,
What the
you
heck did
it
Louisville just
when you
run?
when you actually look at it though, USC's the team that should be beating them. They
Yeah,
haven't played like it this year, but when you actually look at, I mean, they're on their third string quarterback and they still have the advantage of QB,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
crazy, which is
Well,
crazy to say.
I I don't know if it's an advantage. Jack Plummer should be better, don't you think? That Jack Plummer should be better.
I don't know. I mean, I've watched the guy all year and I mean, he's been terrible.
Yeah, that's the one thing that has surprised me a little bit, and I get that Brom is just kind of going with the resources that he has currently at Louisville, but this has been a really run-heavy team compared to at Purdue. They were always very heavy pass teams.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like what you're like. Look at some of the quarterbacks that he had at Purdue.
Oh yeah,
Look
well,
at
one of
Plummer.
them was Jack Plummer.
I know, yeah, for sure. But well, Plummer was never a starter for him,
Yeah, he
was
was.
he?
He was a starter for 2 years.
I didn't think
Yeah,
he ever started for him.
he was a starter for 2 years, or maybe a year and a half before Aiden O'Connell became the starter.
That's right. Yeah, O'Connell beat him out. That's right.
Yep,
Um, but yeah, I mean, Plum. I mean, there's just also too. He never had a running back like George at Purdue.
true, true.
Like, the best player the dude had was Rondell Moore. Um,
Yeah, well, or George
so
Karlaftis.
well, I just meant on the offensive side of the
Yeah,
ball was Moore, who's a receiver. So, um, but yeah, whenever you look at the running back, I mean, they've never. But I mean, I'm watching the highlights right now of the USC Louisville game. If you just watch Miller Moss throw the football, you can tell that he's better than Plummer by a mile. Just watching him.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's not a true freshman, is he?
I have no idea. I really haven't looked into him that much. But why don't we go
I
through
don't know what
USC?
year he is, but he looks so calm and just confident in the pocket.
Yeah,
Um,
why don't we go through
but
USC schedule for next year?
I'm gonna
Because
hop in
it
the
is a
shower real quick while we're on halftime, and then I'll be back. Be like 10 minutes.
okay.
All right. Well, I'll see you back in like 10 minutes. Then we can go through USC schedule.
Okay. Well, we got a little break here from the action as we got halftime here for the Okie State Texas A&M game, where you have a Oklahoma State team that has pretty much dominated Texas A&M all throughout this game, and has looked has looked dramatically better than Texas A&M. So you definitely have a good margin for the Cowboys there, as you are looking at a team that has shown a much improved side compared to what we thought they were going to be going into this year after they lost Spencer Sanders, their quarterback, to the transfer portal, and brought in Alan Bowman, the Texas Tech transfer, to be in their quarterback. But really, the star of the show has been Ollie Gordon, sorry. Ollie Gordon, who's really been the star of the show for the Cowboys, as he has rushed for well over 1,400 yards and has just looked tremendous throughout the season, and has looked even tremendous throughout this game. Well, he is going to be back next year. So Oklahoma State is going to have at least that going for them next year. And to be honest, in my prediction for Oklahoma State, I really should have been a little bit higher on them, knowing that Mike Gundy was their head coach, and knowing how Gundy works and stuff like that, as he is a very good head coach when it comes down to it. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back. Anderson, is there a comment that you have for this stream, particularly as one of our members is out right now, and he'll be back in a moment? But we are doing commentary for this. If you have a question that you would like to ask. We'll be back with some commentary in a few minutes when my broadcasting partner is back, but he is out for a few minutes, and then we'll have some commentary with it being halftime.
And we are back as Oklahoma State got the ball to start the second half, and they get a nice little drive going, get up around midfield, but they just threw an interception, and A&M is going to take over with the football now, up close to midfield on their side of the 50, um, but up close as they're gonna take over about the 40, their own 42-yard line. I mean, what a catch there, an interception. A diving pick there made by the A&M defender, and that may be the momentum that they need. That may be the momentum that they need to to get back in this game. Down 18 right now. As a nice pass complete on the first one right there. Bring up a 2nd and 2 on the play at their own 48 here. A&M gonna hand the ball off now, and they're gonna have a first down. See where they mark him. He's gonna be close. I think he's right at the marker though. Yeah, first down. Right at midfield. As A&M's QB gonna roll out, now throw it back across. Got a man open down inside the 15 to about the 11-yard line. Fumbled the ball, but it went out of bounds. They marked him down anyways at the 11. What a play there from A&M. A little bit of misdirection there in the backfield. They find their man deep down the field. What a play. What a play there. On 1st and goal. And they're going nowhere. Scrimmage.
I
Seems
am
we're having a
back.
little seems we're having a little trouble here with our graphics. So we're going to switch over.
To be honest, I
I
think
think
that
I
the
switched. There we go.
USC game's being a little bit more interesting than our game.
Yeah, I think so. Just, with that one being on national TV, it doesn't usually do as good on the streams.
No, it really doesn't. But USC's definitely this Miller Moss kid. It's Louisville, so I don't take that much into account, but he's looked good. And, well, 6 touchdowns is 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you throw for 6 touchdowns, that's a lot.
Yeah. As long as you're playing a Power 5 team, I don't care how many opt-outs or whatever.
I mean, if you're throwing 6 touchdowns, I don't think I care if you're playing an FCS school. That's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. On the other hand,
Absolutely.
Plummer has only thrown 4 incomplete passes, but only 126 yards.
Yeah, I was about to say he's probably only thrown the ball for about 115 yards.
Yeah, he's really struggled. But to be fair, I didn't know this prehand, but he had a dislocated right pinky finger, which is what's going to
Oh,
end this.
Plummer did?
Yeah, which is what's going to end this game because he just inaccurately threw it to his running back, which made him tumble short of the line to gain, which is going to bring up a first down for USC and a turnover on downs.
What's the score in that one?
28-42, 5 minutes left. USC gets the ball now.
That one was pretty much over anyways then.
Uh-huh. Well, it
As we got
wasn't
a touchdown here for Texas A&M Amari Daniels 2-yard rushing touchdown after the pass interference in the end zone, and it is a 10 or a 12-point game right now. If they go for two, they can make it a 10-point game at 24-14.
I'm assuming you go for two here.
I would think so.
Oh,
I
but
mean, 12 points and 11 points don't really make any difference, but they're gonna kick the extra point.
it is a little bit of early to play points,
Yeah. I mean, I guess go. Yeah, you can always just go for two later.
but I will say this. I will say this. Um, with this, because you do have to get another touchdown, so I do get that. Like if 2 points tied the game up, or like if you really needed it to like take away a touchdown, like I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure. Like it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
but
I mean,
it
at this
is,
point in the game, it doesn't matter if you what you do with it. You know.
yeah. Plus, like as a Notre Dame fan, we've been screwed before by not by going for two multiple times early when Brian Kelly played Clemson in 2015. If he didn't go for two that first time, we wouldn't have had to go for two the second time, which means that you wouldn't have had the goal line stand.
Yeah, exactly.
And you would have had overtime, which I'm sure you'll disagree with me on, but I think Notre Dame probably wins in overtime because of the momentum, but
I
we'll
know
see.
you've always got a way for Notre Dame to win any game.
Dude, you know I'm right.
Any game they've played, you've always got a way for them to have won.
You know I'm right about it, though.
It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. The point is they lost, and you're still, what are we, 8 years later, trying to come up with ways how they could have won the game.
I'm not saying woulda, coulda, shoulda. I'm just talking about the game and extra points and 2 point conversions. Either way, point being,
You think after 8 years you give up?
to move on,
I
unlike
guess
Lincoln,
not.
Elijah Robinson, the defensive line coach and was interim head coach at A&M. What do you think about the hire of him as DC at Syracuse?
I mean, I think it's a good hire, but at the same time, it's still Syracuse. So we'll see what really comes of it. But I mean, I think Syracuse has a good. I think they got a good head coach. I think they now they have a good DC, and I think that quarterback wise with McCord, we'll see what they end up getting out of him. But I mean, I think they could have a solid, the solid little uh, three set right there, a little core group. Obviously
I
they
don't.
still got to get some more guys around them, but I don't know how I feel about. I mean, Syracuse is just kind of Syracuse to me. It doesn't really matter what kind of moves they make; they're always going to be the same old thing. Know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if I agree. Really, to be honest, I think Syracuse. I think they may be a danger next year in the ACC. I think Syracuse, Kyle McCord. I get like he's not like CJ Stroud or JT Barrett or whatever, or Justin Fields, whatever. Like he's not as talented as they were, but I don't know. Kyle McCord, like I don't think Syracuse has to improve that much. And plus, the other reason why I bring up Elijah Robinson is he's, I think, also going to be able to bring over some of those Texas A&M recruits that he recruited on that defensive line. Probably not a guy like Walter Nolan, but the other guys, I think he has a shot at bringing in some high-powered recruits that Syracuse normally wouldn't get. And if he does, plus it gives Syracuse the opportunity to recruit in a more southern basis as well, which is something that they would struggle with on general occasion, which is recruiting in that southern basin.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see that, but I don't know how it. I mean, again, it's Syracuse, so we've seen some of these other big time A&M recruits. So I mean, what have they done? Um, so we'll see if any of them come and how they play. Um, I just
Well,
I just don't know how I feel about Syracuse. Like, I just Syracuse has always been the same old Syracuse, even before Dino Babers, and I just don't see why any reason why they wouldn't be without him. Um, Especially with um, I mean, you look at how good Florida State was this year in the ACC. You've
Yeah.
got that. You look at, I mean, if Miami gets Cam Ward, they're going to be a pretty big player
Well, let's say
in the
this.
ACC. Well, hold on, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
You got North Carolina, who I mean, they absolutely killed Syracuse and didn't even have a defense this year.
Well,
And
let's say quick question
is
before
you gonna
I
let me finish?
with the North Carolina point, let me ask this then. Do you think Mac Brown is back next year? I think that needs to be answered while you're talking about this question.
I mean, I think it's a potential that he comes back either or leaves. I'm kind of 50-50 on it either way. There's not much talk about it to either side of it, and I mean, even if he's not, they're gonna hire an offensive-minded coach. They already have all the pieces still for an elite offense, so um, at least in terms of speaking next year, I don't think you have to worry about that out of North Carolina, regardless of who the coach is. Um, I mean, and then you even look at how bad of a season and down Clemson was, and what they went and did to Syracuse at Syracuse. So I mean, I still think Syracuse has a lot of they just have a lot that they're going to have to jump up to even be considered to fit. Like I just don't see them finishing top four in the ACC next year.
Well, I
Even
don't
if
think
they
that
get
they
some of these recruits, I just don't think they're going to be top four, top five, probably not even top six.
I'm not saying they
I mean,
finished top 4.
because that was just the big teams, and then think about what NC State added on. And I know I know they lose a little bit more than some of these other teams, and are going to have a harder time replacing it. But they get it. They're going to actually have a quarterback. You look
Yeah,
at
but
what
you're gonna
Virginia
lose.
Tech's done. You look at what Virginia Tech's done. Yeah, and yeah, they're going to lose a lot on the defense, especially. But I mean, look, they returned their best offensive weapon, and basically the guy who was their entire offense this year, in Casey Concepcion. Um,
Yeah.
and like Georgia Tech's improving. So I think Syracuse is kind of down there in that pack with like Boston College and Georgia Tech, and and then add in Syracuse because I think that there's some teams that are improving, but they've still got a lot more to improve before they're gonna really start to climb their way to the top of the ACC.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this then. Let's give a power ranking going into next season. I know this season isn't completely finished up and you still have games to go, but I think we pretty much know the outcome for all these teams. NC State, we don't know how they're going to fare in their bowl game. It could go one way or another. I think we all know how Florida State's going to finish. Louisville is getting their rear ends handed to them. Clemson, they'll probably win. Um, so you have that. Um,
You did mention that Florida State's gonna get murdered, right?
yeah, I did say that. Yeah,
Okay.
I said, yeah,
I
I
was I
said,
was trying to think back through all the ones that you had said, and I couldn't remember Florida State.
yeah, I said them before Louisville.
Oh, okay.
But if we're going power ranking wise, not just like after this season or after the season's fact, but like going into next season, who is at the bottom in your opinion?
I mean,
Not as much
I
of a prediction, but like kind of like who you think slash
I
who's
don't
in the
know
top.
what order they're gonna finish on the bottom, but I think the bottom tier has got to be Virginia and Wake Forest, kind of in a tier of their own.
What about Pitt? I think Pitt's really sucked, and I just don't know how they.
It could, but I do feel like Pitt is a little bit better coached
That is true,
than
but
those
I
other
don't know.
teams are.
I'll be honest. I don't know how they beat Boston College
Okay,
at any rate.
I'll say Clausen's probably the best coach of the three, but
Yeah. Oh
Narduzzi isn't far behind him, and he gets better. He gets better talent.
yeah.
So
So
I think Pitt's kind of a little bit above them, and
yeah.
I think Pitt's kind of in their own tier. Um,
What do you think's
I
going on in
I
Boston
think Pitt's
College?
kind of I think Pitt's kind of in between that bottom tier of Wake Forest and Virginia, and then the next tier with like Georgia Tech and Syracuse and Boston College. I think Pitt's kind of somewhere in between there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
And
Um
then I think above that you have You probably have, I would say, Duke, Miami, North Carolina, NC
Well, I
State, and then I think kind of in between them and then Florida State would be Clemson, kind of in their own tier. They can be up there with Florida State, or they can play down into the tier below them. I think they're kind of in the middle, and then Florida State at the top. Louisville also in that group with NC State and Miami and them.
Well, here's the one thing that I would say. I pretty much kind of agree with you. I do think that Duke. I love like that I don't hate Duke or stuff like that. Like I don't have a thing against Duke, but I think Duke's in that bottom tier to be honest, or at least in between the bottom tier and the tier that you said afterwards. Because I think Duke's going to fall off again with Elko gone and with no Riley Leonard and with a lot of their big name guys heading out either to the draft or the transfer portal.
I just don't see that because they got the most important position in the quarterback, and I mean, they were without Riley Leonard for a lot of the season and still played very competitive with a lot of these big teams, and honestly should have beat Florida State, North Carolina. Um, but
Yeah,
I
but they
mean, Grayson Loftus is a good quarterback. He's not. I mean, he's not far behind Leonard in the way that he played this year with Leonard being out. So I think that Duke could be a pretty solid team. I think they're towards the bottom of the tier I put them in, but I do think they're better than Georgia Tech, Boston College, and Syracuse.
you think they're better than Georgia Tech and Boston College and Syracuse?
Yeah,
Ooh, I
I mean,
agree
because
with
I think it's possible that all three of those teams could go 5-7, 4-8 this next year. We just don't know with them. Whereas, I mean, Duke, they could possibly go 8-4 again.
Yeah, I don't know. The one thing that I would disagree on is this. I think Georgia Tech finished higher than Clemson, higher than UNC, higher than Duke, and higher than Miami.
Yeah, but when you look at that, Clemson also destroyed Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I get that.
Miami beat Georgia Tech. All right, I mean, they didn't beat them, but
Yeah,
they beat
yeah.
them. um,
Yeah, but to be fair, incompetent coaching is sometimes on the shoulders of some dum dums. To be fair, they
it
almost
is,
beat Louisville at the
but
beginning of the season. We both watched that game.
they did, but that wasn't the same Louisville team that was. I mean, that Louisville team was
Yeah,
good
but
and
then look at
stepped up until they beat that Notre Dame team.
the end of the season when they almost beat Georgia. And I get that Georgia played everybody that sucks close. I get that, but you got to give Georgia Tech some props for being able. And then
I'm giving them some props, but I'm also taking into account that they played a lot weaker of an ACC schedule than a lot of those teams you named.
yeah, I get it. But here's the one thing that I would say is this: if Clemson plays at Georgia Tech, I would be really concerned when it comes to a Clemson team against Georgia Tech. I would be very concerned. Even with you guys beating the crap out of them in Death Valley.
I wouldn't be
Because
because
well, you know,
it's the same thing as North Carolina. Our defense is good enough to completely shut down their offense, and their
says
defense
the
is so
team
bad.
that lost.
Their defense their defense is so bad that it doesn't matter what our offense does. We're gonna score points on them.
Yeah, but here's my problem is this. To be fair, you don't play them next year, so we're arguing over pretty much nothing. But I will say this. I think with Georgia Tech, you're looking at a team that just simply put like next year. Obviously, the ACC hasn't come out with their schedule, so we don't know what their schedule is specifically. But one second, I can pull up their teams. One
Well,
second,
the
let me
only real
pull it up.
reason we're talking about it is because you're insecure about Notre Dame, and you are every year. They never bring you happiness. You got to bring down everybody else's team because you're very insecure about your team.
Dude, we will have plenty to break. We will have plenty to break down come Friday. You know that.
Oh yeah, I know. I just mean you're insecure about your own team. You always got to bring up
I am not
everybody
insecure,
else.
and you
You
understand.
you you always talk about the worries of everybody else's team because you don't want to talk about the worries of your own team.
Oh, the worries of our own team. You know that Clemson has more worries than Notre Dame does.
I'd say they both got equal worries, especially. I mean that's pretty bold to say that one team has more worries than another team when that team destroyed you.
Okay, here's the thing, Lincoln, and you know this is true. If you played that game at Notre Dame, it would have been the opposite effect.
And you know that this is true, that you will argue and come up with any what if to make it where Notre Dame wins.
Oh my
Who
word,
cares
Lincoln,
what
you
it would
know
be if
I'm
they put
right.
it at Notre Dame? They played it at Clemson.
So Georgia Tech's schedule next year. Oh, why is Georgia? Okay, Lincoln, seriously. Georgia Tech plays guess who in Ireland next year?
Notre Dame.
No. They play
Who else would they
Florida
play in
State.
Ireland?
Florida State.
They play Florida State in Ireland.
Yeah. That seems odd. What, like, neither of those teams, like, at all, like, makes sense of why they're going to Ireland.
I mean, that's what I didn't think they played Notre Dame next year, but when you said Ireland, I mean, that was all I could.
Well, they do play Notre Dame next year in Mercedes-Benz, but still. Yep.
That just doesn't even that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. They're playing okay, either way. They play Florida State in Ireland the week 0. You got Georgia State, you got VMI. At least your non-conference is a little bit easier. You got 2 wins. Though I say that and you lost to Bowling freaking Green this year. So, that's
Yeah,
also a
that's another thing. I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah, they played Georgia close. Yeah, they played Louisville close. They also lost to Bowling Green by what, 14
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
at
don't
at
know.
home.
Yeah, yeah, it was bad. But here's the thing, I don't know. I like Brent Key, so I am going to back him a little bit. Plus, I think he is a good head coach and has done a lot of good things at Georgia Tech. I don't think he's going to be the team that carries them to like the promised land. And I don't mean national championship. I just mean like the promised land that oh, oh, what's his name, Lincoln?
Paul
Gus
Johnson,
Johnson or Paul Johnson. Wow. Wrong, not the announcer.
commentator.
Yeah, yeah. I sorry, he was just on the USC bowl game. So that was like one of the few bowl games that ESPN doesn't own the right to. Um, man, I wish that more games weren't owned by ESPN's right so that we heard Gus Johnson on one of these playoff games rather.
I don't, because that's less views on the streams for us.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. That is
I
true.
don't care who's calling it. I don't have the volume up anyways.
Yeah, yeah. But you do you got an interesting road schedule. You got at Virginia Tech, you got at Syracuse, at North Carolina, and at Louisville. Those are 4 tough games. Well, 3 tough games and then 1 automatic win.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was talking about with
Well, you know who I
Georgia
mean
Tech.
by the automatic win, right?
Yeah, North Carolina, the team they've
Yeah.
upset the last what 4 years in a row, three,
Yeah,
something like that.
pretty much. North Carolina's already got 1 loss on next season.
But I was just like this year they didn't have as tough of a as a schedule in the ACC, but next year they're gonna have a pretty tough conference schedule.
Well,
Um,
they got Florida State, Duke, Miami, NC State. Those are their home games. Or well, Florida State's in Ireland, but it's technically a home game.
yeah, yeah. But I do think you're gonna get some different results out of them. This coming year, they're not gonna see as much success. Like I don't think they're gonna finish in front of a lot of those schools that they did that you named next year.
Yeah.
I think
Well, they better not.
that they'll be
Yeah.
passed by some.
Well, they better not finish in front of Miami, otherwise. How long of a leash does Cristobal have? Do you think?
Who knows? I mean, he
Because
has
he's
had what 3, 4 years.
no, he had 2.
thought he was
But
longer than that.
well, he was only let go because Cristobal became available. That's the
I
only
still
reason
thought he
why
was
he
there
was.
longer than that, but yeah, I mean, they weren't gonna get rid of him unless they knew they were getting Cristobal.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I don't know. Virginia Tech's also in an interesting situation. Brent Pry um, turned it around kind of later in the season. Uh, you lost to Marshall early on in the season, but then you ended with a 5-3 conference record uh, and a bowl game win. So
Your first since
Virginia Tech,
2016.
yeah, that's kind of crazy because remember how long of a bowl streak they were on?
Yeah,
Because they were on that super long bull streak for whatever for a long time. I think it's like 20 plus years. It's kind of funny that the ACC has all these really long bull streaks.
I know, yeah, I mean, it's kinda bad for some of these teams.
Yeah, Virginia Tech and Florida State. So it definitely is interesting. But I think oh, back to USC. Listen to this schedule. This is USC may lose another 4 games next year. They got LSU in Las Vegas. Then they got Utah State. Then they got a bye week. After the bye week, they had at Michigan. Then they got Wisconsin, at Minnesota, Penn State, at Maryland, Rutgers, at Washington, Nebraska, at UCLA, and then Notre Dame. That is a schedule. That's a schedule.
It is, but it's still crazy, like, there's still so many things, um, that, like, have to go on to even, like, know, like, it's still so far, like, I mean, you think about a team like UCLA. They could
Yeah.
beat USC, but they could
Yep.
also not pick up anybody in the transfer portal and, win 3 games next year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another coach
Uh,
that may not have a very long leash, and Chip
'Cause
Kelly.
I don't think Garbers is gonna be the guy for them next year. If
Let's
if
hope
they're
not.
gonna if they're gonna have a successful season. Now, if he definitely could be the guy next year. I just don't know how well that's gonna turn out
Yeah.
for UCLA. I'm thinking not very good.
Definitely not. If it was anything like this year, they really, really need a better quarterback. Even Dante Moore was not very good this year. So,
Nah,
and to
which
be fair, it's not like it's his fault. Like Dante Moore was a freshman. Like you shouldn't be expected to play and be super successful as a freshman, especially when like UCLA, it's not like they had a ton of weapons around him or like a great offensive line or a great running attack. So
no, I mean they had a solid run game, a definitely doable run game, but
yeah,
I
yeah, it
mean
wasn't bad.
there just weren't a whole lot of outside receivers for him to throw the ball to, and it it seemed like it seemed like he always had to play in the bigger games.
Yeah, yeah, that is probably because of his talent. It
Probably
definitely
so,
helps.
yeah.
It definitely helps that he was more talented. Um, but USC, like they're growing cross country every other week. I just that's going to take a toll on a team. I feel like.
Well, is the schedule in order before
Yeah,
you do
that
this again?
yes, that was the in order schedule that I just read off. Yes,
Okay, okay. Not like
seriously,
West
Lincoln.
Virginia playing 4 road games, then they get 5 straight home games to end the year.
No, no. The Big Ten released their schedule. The SEC released their schedule. Has the Big 12 released theirs?
I don't think so, I think they just know their opponents.
Yeah, and the ACC they also just know their opponents, and the
Mhm.
Pac-12 knows their schedules.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the
Whatever the
Pac-2.
Mountain West gives them.
Yeah, yeah. That's just sad. Like, I feel bad for Washington and Oregon State because they weren't even like the 2 worst teams in the conference.
I don't feel bad for them at all. I think it's hilarious, and I think they think it's hilarious as well. I mean, look, these all these other schools, they all left to go, especially the 4 that started it, or the 4 big ones that went to the Big Ten, right? They're gonna be making $8 million more than they would've, or whatever. It was a small amount more in terms of what, obviously 8 million is not a small amount, but to those schools, it's not a huge amount. Um,
How much are they
and
getting
then with the
paid?
court ruling that Washington State and Oregon State made $250 million the next day. They split it. When the court ruled they made $250 million. I forget the exact increase in the TV money and all that stuff to go to the Big Ten, but it's going to take those schools 32 years to earn what Washington State and Oregon State earned in one day.
That can't be right.
Yeah, they got 250 million apiece.
But Oregon, I don't know how. Okay, so let me say this. I don't know how the TV contract is working for the 4 that left for the Big Ten, but the Big Ten schools are getting about $100 million a year each.
No, 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 no. It's not gonna take them 32 years to get 250 million to earn 250 million more than what they were earning in the Pac-12.
Oh,
Yeah, to earn more than what they were earning in the Pac-12.
okay.
It is gonna
Yeah,
take
but
them like 30 years.
yeah, I don't. But here's the
I
only
just thought that
problem.
was funny that the reason they left is for money, and
Yeah.
they all leave, and the
Well,
2
part
that
of the
weren't leaving
problem
for
is
money
yeah, but
ended
part
up
of the
getting
problem
all
is
of it.
this. Part of the problem is this, though, Lincoln, is the simple fact that when you're looking at the Pac 12, it really wasn't a viable conference in some sake. And the simple fact that, like, TV deal wise, they were going to get a worse TV deal than they were getting now
Oh,
if they
yeah, I mean,
stayed in
half
the
the
Pac
game,
12.
all but, like, 2 or 3 games a week are on Pac-12 Network, which nobody gets, and is not even on TV. You have to, it's some kinda, like, subscription service
Yeah,
that
yeah.
nobody's gonna buy to watch the Pac-12 game. Even though they're good football games, nobody's buying that but the Pac-12 fans.
Well, the funny thing is that the only reason why the Pac-12 fell apart was because there's no Pete Carroll, and then they finally got Dion, but it was a year too late.
Mhm.
If Dion was there a year before, he probably would have kept the Pac-12 together, I think. Because the TV
Well, they
deal that
would've
way
actually
would have
they would've that's what I was
Go
about to
ahead.
say, yeah, the TV deal they would've gotten would've been,
Oh, yeah.
just from him, would have been, and especially when you look at this year for them, I mean, they were the best conference in the country by far.
I don't know
I mean,
about
it
by
it wasn't
far, but yeah, they were
it wasn't
definitely the
even
best.
close in terms I mean, teams at the top that they have, and then just overall, just down the league, competitive games, and and when I say best, I don't mean necessarily like the best rankings wise, because I mean, we all know the rankings are biased anyways towards certain conferences. But
Yeah.
is and f they were the Pac-12 was the best entertainment by far this season.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they were,
Like, that's
and
not
the
even that's I mean, we were all up at were we not all up at 2 in the morning watching Colorado State?
Oh,
Were we
yeah,
all not
yeah,
up at were we all not up at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning watching Colorado Stanford? Were we
yeah.
not all sitting on the TV, not moving, or sitting on the couch watching the TV, not moving, watching Oregon, Washington, not once but twice?
Yeah, but
Or watching
that's the
USC, Utah,
problem.
Washington, USC, like, that that was the best conference, but it was just a year too late for all of it.
Yeah, and it really sucks because the TV ratings that they got this year were probably the best they've ever gotten, it wasn't even close.
Oh, yeah, they were
And the reason
insane.
The reason why they like, here's the annoyance that I have is this. The whole reason why they're leaving the conference is because they sucked in the first place. If USC wasn't as bad as they have been, they would have had a TV deal. That's the only reason. Like, if UCLA was better, if Oregon was better, if these teams were actually decent, the reason why they don't have a TV deal is because they were all crappy and they weren't entertaining. There wasn't a Pete Carroll. And part of the problem is this, like, and I know like, if USC was as good as they were the past 2 years and they were able to reunite that rivalry with Notre Dame, but it just wasn't much of a rivalry. It just wasn't entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was nothing really entertaining about it until now.
Yeah, and even the
But
past 2
again,
years,
it's too late now.
yeah, yeah, and even the past 2 years, it's been like, you've definitely had a good matchup, but I think even then, part of the problem is that USC, um, with Notre Dame losing to Louisville, it definitely blew the sails out of it this past year. Um, and then last year, excuse me, it just wasn't as it just each team kind of did just enough that they weren't going to be major contenders and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, but you
Yeah,
definitely
just it just
go
wasn't
ahead.
as entertaining as it was definitely expected to be before the season and hyped up of a matchup.
No, no.
I mean,
Well,
because
to
it
be
but before the season, it was looked at as a game that the winner that could be the game that whoever wins it potentially needs to get into the playoff and the game that could keep the loser out. And then whenever you look at it, the 2 teams combined for what, 9 losses, 8 losses?
Notre Dame has 8 losses. Yeah.
Yeah, 8
To be
losses, so
yeah. So, and I think, like, when you're looking at this, when you're looking at this game, really, to be fair, Notre Dame blew the sails
I'm
out
making
of
a
UF.
T-shirt with your face on it and that saying, because that's you say that all the time, to be fair.
Well, to be fair, I'm talking about USC. So, like, when you're looking at USC, Notre Dame, if they didn't beat them as bad as they beat them, they probably have a
You didn't
better
even get it,
season
you
than
said it
7 and
again.
5. They have a better season than 75 if Notre Dame don't beat the crap out of them, and you know that.
Oh, I'm not saying they didn't, I'm just saying that that's always what you say whenever you gotta make a point to make Notre Dame look better.
Dude, I am literally explaining. I'm being
You
nice
know
to
what you're doing, you
USC.
know what you're doing. You're not being nice to them. They would have
I'm
had a
being
better
nice
season
to
if Notre
Southern
Dame didn't
Cal.
beat the crap out of them. You know exactly
You
what
need
you're doing.
you need to make sure that the ESPN graphic is updated there, Hotshot.
Notre Dame probably would have had a better season if Clemson didn't beat the crap out of them.
Dude,
Yeah.
we are we are 1-1 in the past 2 seasons with you.
And the graphic is updating Hot Shot.
It looks like it hasn't.
It's not the
Mm.
live game feed, it doesn't update instantly.
Well, I understand that, Lincoln.
Give it a second.
But what are your thoughts on Nebraska going into next year? As rules really looked like he turned the program around, more so to do with what he's bringing in with Rayola, and also the other thing that I figured out why. Maybe you knew this, but Rayola's father was the quarterback at Nebraska in the '90s.
Yeah, I knew he had some kind of family ties up there. I wasn't sure what they were, but I do remember. I think his
His
grandpa or
uncle
somebody
was
also uncle, that's
Yeah,
right.
his
I,
uncle is at the O line coach at Nebraska.
that's what yeah, that's what I had heard was that his uncle was the offensive line coach. Um Yeah, that's
So
what I heard, but I mean, I think Matt Rule's built and I liked him, you know, he always does bad in the first year that he takes over at schools, but then the second year usually makes a significant jump. He gets some of his guys in, he figures out what he's got a lot more, can get a good system in. I mean, I think Nebraska can win. I haven't seen their schedule, but probably eight games next year, maybe 9.
Well, I'll pull up their
I
schedule.
think
We
it's
can go
looking up
through
for
it.
Nebraska fans.
So we got Nebraska's schedule here. They start off against UTEP at home. It's a win. Then you got Colorado at home. I think that's a win. You?
I think so.
Northern Iowa at home, win. Then you got, and this is their real schedule, Lincoln. It isn't that I was looking at the wrong thing. Another home game, Illinois, win.
So we got them at what, 3 right now?
4,
4.
4-0.
Okay. Hey, I'm proud of you. You don't have Illinois going unbeaten again.
Oh, shut up. I didn't have them going unbeaten in the first place. Yes, I know Illinois
Might as well
screwed
have had
me.
them going unbeaten.
I get that Illinois screwed me, but it's not like I'm the only one that got screwed by a team this year. You did too.
Oh,
Um,
I know, but
at at Purdue, that should be a win, I think. I don't think you should have any issues.
I don't think so.
Rut
I mean, Purdue
Rutgers at
didn't
Rutgers,
really show anything at all this year.
yeah, Rutgers at home, probably a win. Um, then you're
I would say,
6 and
yeah,
0.
especially with it being a home game.
You're 6 and 0 heading into the bye week then. Then you got at Indiana. Again, I don't think you have an issue. But then this is where it gets interesting. You got at Ohio State, probably a loss, but you're 7 and
Yeah,
0.
probably a loss there, but
Yeah, I don't know. I could see Rule if he's
I mean,
because here's the one.
we don't know what
Go ahead.
Ohio State's gonna be. I said we don't know what
Yeah, I
Ohio
know.
State's gonna be like next year. They're losing a lot.
Yeah, to be fair, their wide
I mean,
receiver
I
room is
still
still stacked.
oh yeah, like I still think it's a loss. Um, but it's definitely not like playing some Ohio State teams in the past. There's I mean, there's a real shot
Yeah.
that you could beat them. Whereas in
Then
the
you got
past, it's
you.
always just talk. No, like they're not beating Ohio State in years past.
Yeah, yeah. Then you got UCLA at home. That's a win. Then you got a bye week, and then USC on the road. I think you probably win that, right?
I mean, I would think so. I don't know. I mean, the way Miller Moss played tonight, maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe
I mean, if you
he,
if
he
you let him
looked.
throw for 6 touchdowns, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a fun matchup. Then you got Wisconsin at home, and then a road game against Iowa, and that's the last 2 games. I think you probably have 3 losses. I think you go 9-3. Maybe I even put my money on Matt Rule and have him go 10-2.
I could
The
see
big
that.
thing, the big thing is you avoid Michigan. You avoid
hmm
Michigan.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the one guaranteed team going into it.
So, and then at Ohio State, like obviously you would have liked to have that game at home, but really honestly, and at USC, that obviously you would have liked to have that game at home.
hmm
Really, I would say their 3 toughest games are at Ohio State, at USC, and at Iowa. Just because Iowa's always a pain in the rear for everybody. And if they ever find a competent offensive coordinator, they'll be a pain in the rear to Michigan in the Big Ten championship game because they always seem to find their way there, but they suck. Hey, Iowa plays Illinois State next year. Fantastic. Talk about a low scoring affair. Um,
Yeah, they'll find a way. One of the teams find a way to score just 1 point.
uh, we'll see. We'll see. It'll probably be like 7 safeties on ISU. It will end up being 14-0, but it won't be because of 2 touchdowns. Oh boy. Uh, Iowa has an interesting schedule next year. Listen to this in between the 2 bye weeks that they have. at Ohio State, Wisconsin, at Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, at UCLA, and then you got another bye week. That is like the 6-week stretch. Oh, that's the other question I got to ask you. What do you think about Northwestern with their head coach, who I'm blanking on their name because, like, who knows that dude's name anyway?
Yeah, for real. I don't know his name, but a good job this year. I mean,
He
this is a
really
team
did.
I think I had them winning one game, and they won what, 6
They won
or
8,
7? Was it 6 or I think it 8?
8 with the bowl win.
Oh yeah, yeah, with the bowl win, that's right. Yeah, 7-5 won the bowl game. Um, yeah, I mean, that's just incredible to have an 8-win team with a team that, I mean, I wasn't the only one.
No,
There
I had him
was
going 1-11.
That's what I was about. I mean, basically, like I think the Athlon book, I don't think it had winning a single game.
Wow, wow. I only had him beating UTEP, so that's
They
all
might have
that's
had
the
him beat
only.
UTEP at 1-11.
Let me see. Did I maybe I gave him 2 wins? Maybe I gave him a benefit of a doubt in a game.
I can't
Let's see
remember if
here.
I might have gave
Oh,
him one
I
big
had him
time game.
winning. I I gave him 2 games. I gave him Howard and UTEP.
Okay, then I had him at 2-10 also. I would have given him those two.
Okay. Yeah, but Howard, man, they only beat Howard 23-20. Goodness
I think
gracious.
I think the Athlon had him at 1-11, only beating Howard.
That is To be fair, they
It's rough.
shouldn't have been. The funny thing is this, Lincoln, if they beat Iowa, they're in the Big Ten championship game.
And they
And they
lost
only
to
lost
Iowa by what, 7?
3, 10-7. They lost on a 56-yard field goal as time expired.
Gosh.
They were that close, a 56-yard field goal away from being in the Big Ten championship.
That's
That's
just
all it
insane.
that's all it took. To be fair, like, they did not play well against anybody. Like they played well again. They played well enough to beat teams, but it was not pretty. They lost 24-7 against Rutgers. That was their worst game of the year, probably. Then they had UTEP beat them 38-7. That was probably their best, most complete game of the year. Then you have a 38-14 loss against Duke, a 37-34 overtime win against Minnesota, a 41-13 loss against Penn State, a 23-20 win against Howard, a 17-9 loss against Nebraska, a 23-27 win or a 33-27 win over Maryland. That one was probably the most shocking. Well, I never mind. I take that back. It's Maryland and it's October.
What month was it
Um,
in? It's October?
October.
Yeah, not shocking at all.
Yeah.
Shocking that
Maryland
Maryland
is,
kept it that close.
to be honest, Maryland, can we replace them with the Miami Terrapins? Just Miami
Sure.
Dolphins and Terrapins. So I think they're the same thing, right? Which is kind of funny because it's not even like they're a warm weather team. It's just they suck. Um, then they had a 10-7 loss to Iowa, a 24-10 win against Nebraska or against Wisconsin. That was at Wisconsin. That may have been their most impressive win of the year. Then a 23-15 win against Purdue, a 45-43 win against Illinois, and then a 14-7 win against Utah. That's just some impressive work. That is some seriously impressive work. But here's the only problem going into next season. You don't have Ben Bryant. You got to bring a lot of players back. And Northwestern always loses a lot of their guys because they play a lot of experience generally almost all the time because, well, I guess we now know why. But yeah, you're looking at a team that's going to have a lack of experience. You got Miami of Ohio week 1, then Duke, then at Washington, Indiana. Maryland is earlier on in the season in early October, so that's kind of 50-50 territory. Wisconsin, at Iowa, at Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, and Illinois. That is a rough schedule.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
because you got two automatic losses there, I think, in Ohio State, Michigan, and well, maybe even three. Who has Washington got a replacement for Penix yet? Something may have been said, but I didn't hear anything.
I'm not I'm not sure. I know Cam Ward originally that was one of like the top 3 or 4 schools for him to go, but I don't know if I've heard much on it. I don't think I've heard a whole lot on him going there anymore.
I would I would think that that would be a good move though for like on a personal level. I feel like going to um Washington, like I feel like that'd be something you'd want to do almost um unless if you don't want to play for your rival, which I'd understand too.
Yeah, yeah. Which it all depends on too where Cam Ward's from. Like, you know, if
I'll
he's a
look
guy
up.
from Texas that just went to Washington State, I'd if Washington's offering him $1 million, I don't think he's gonna care.
Wow, I feel like you almost knew that, Lincoln. Yeah, he is from Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, y- I definitely could take some credit for that, but I mean, it's Texas. If you got a good quarterback, just guess Texas. You got a 70% chance of being right.
That is true. That is true. That is way too true. But he played at Incarnate Word, which have you heard of Incarnate Word before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're FCS, right? They're
Yeah, yeah.
FCS, yeah.
They're a really good FCS school. Or at least they have been really good the past couple of years. So um definitely playing well there means something. Um
Yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah, so let's see here. But yeah, I think that when you're looking at this team, Washington and I don't know. Yeah. Do we have any final thoughts on the game that we were kind of covering in Oklahoma State, Texas A&M? Because, well, I'll be honest, I haven't really been following it that much.
I've been watching a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, there hasn't really been much going on. I mean, Oklahoma State's up 31-20 right now. They got the ball with 9:15 to go and counting in 1st and 10 near midfield. But I mean, there's just doesn't really seem like there's been a whole lot. I mean, especially if Oak it hasn't really been too competitive. Earlier in the game, when it was 17-6, I said the game was more competitive than the scoreboard showed. But I mean, now at this point, it feels like the scoreboard's more competitive than the game has been. I feel like Oklahoma State's really just been dominating. I mean, they've driven straight down the field earlier in the half and threw a pick that kind of a second pick, not the first one in the half on the first drive, but later in the game threw another interception that they were driving on the field down the field, and then I mean they just stopped A&M after it. So it's kind of
Yeah.
been more Oklahoma State. Like Oklahoma State should be up by more than 11 for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I think that this team they've played well, but or what are your thoughts on Oklahoma State going into next year, going into an expanded Big 12?
I mean, I think they have a top tier coach, which you
Yep.
need.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure this guy quarterback's returning for him. I mean, he's made a few mistakes here and there, but I mean, he's playing really good for him for the most part. I believe they returned a good bit of their receiving core. I think Ollie said he's coming back for 2024.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm pretty sure Ollie
so I mean, I
Gordon
think
is a
offensively they're kind of set.
I'm pretty sure he's a sophomore, is he not?
Oh, is he just a sophomore?
Yeah, I think he has to come back.
Okay, maybe he is. I just heard him talking earlier in the game, or game about Ollie Gordon returning for Oklahoma State in 2024, and I thought they were saying that he said he was coming back.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
might be. I think he. Now that you say that, I think he is. Um, but yeah, I think that Oklahoma State's going to be a pretty solid team, especially offensively. Defensively, they can be a little suspect at times. But they typically find a way to make those plays that they need to make at the end of games to win it defensively.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think Mike Gundy is being such a good head coach like you mentioned before. I think he's the type of head coach that you just look for in a
He's
program
just a
like
winner.
yeah, he really is.
He just he just wins.
In my opinion, he's just the Mike Tomlin of college football.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
he
Like I
never really wins. Which I know Tomlin's won a Super Bowl, but it's a little bit different in the NFL than I mean, Oklahoma State doesn't really have a chance to win a national championship.
yeah.
They just
Yeah.
they're not going to get the recruits,
No, they're
um,
not.
and they're not going to out recruit, and they're not going to be popular enough than some of these other teams. Um, but he just wins, and he finds a way to just tough it out and grit it out and scrape and claw and come away with the win when nobody expected him to. I mean, even this year he's at 9-4, about to be 10-4, 10-1 season for him, and a lot of people, include myself, had him at 6-6.
Oh yeah. I think I had him at 7-5,
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that's where you had him at.
but it was a kind 7-5. Like I could have seen worse. Um so like he proved once again why he's such a good head coach. And to be honest, I'm happy to see it. Like he seems to be a decent guy and somebody to cheer for. So I have no problem cheering for him, I guess is the best way of putting it. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I think we're gonna wrap the stream up tonight because we'll be having one going early in the morning tomorrow. Got SMU Boston College at 11
yep, we got a lot
for
of
the
stuff.
what is that, the Fenway Bowl? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fenway Bowl.
Yeah. Last year it was the Scott
We
Satterfield
got
Bowl, but it's not that anymore.
yeah, yeah. We'll have the
So
Fenway Bowl, and then right after that we got the what is it, the Bad Boy Mowers, Rutgers in Miami. Then the Pop Tarts Bowl. I'm excited for that one, especially to see what's all about this edible mascot,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
close it out. What's the gate? The Alamo Bowl, right? Arizona, Oklahoma.
Yep. I'm excited for that one.
I think so. Yeah, I am too. I think that's going to be a dogfight.
But the only thing I will say is
I
I
think
do
that may
think
be the best bowl game.
yeah, I do think that Oklahoma definitely has a disadvantage going into that bowl game though.
Oh yeah, they're down the quarterback, but I'm pretty sure Delore is hurt for Arizona, is he not?
Oh, I don't know. You may be right. I haven't looked that much into it.
I'm pretty sure he's out with injury.
Well, that makes it a much more interesting matchup then.
Look
But I
that up.
still, if I had to put my money somewhere, I'd probably put it on Arizona.
Oh
I
no,
just think
Delore
that
entered the portal.
oh, that makes it interesting. It,
He lost his starting job. Lost starting job.
to who?
I haven't been keeping up with Arizona in terms of who's played
When did
to
he
FIDA.
Well, obviously
Announced two
we
days
may
ago
need
he's
to
entering the
change our
portal.
yeah, we may need to change our YouTube channels names there, like but
Maybe so. Well, might need to change yours. I'm just the football network. I'm not the expert.
yeah. Well, that's gonna wrap it up, like you
Noah
said.
Fifita.
But that's why they started winning or stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's
Maybe
the
so.
reason. I'll have to look
Yeah,
into that.
maybe
Uh,
so. Yeah,
yeah.
I will too. I haven't been keeping up with Arizona.
Well, that's gonna wrap it up today.
All right. Well, yeah, that'll.
Just before the clock strikes midnight, we got to make sure we get home before all of the magic disappears, right?
Yeah.